Hey everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. We give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. Today is Wednesday, hump day. So happy Wednesday to you, or happy hump day to you. Today's video, and you would think by this partial or mostly done, I'm going to add some borders to this, but you would think that we were doing a video on how to make this quilt, but we're not. This video is just simply about cornerstones and sashings. Now, some people call cornerstones posts, so whatever your terminology is, but it's cornerstones and sashings. Whenever they go across and go down all the way through the quilt, it can get a little frustrating. So I decided to do this video at the time period. First of all, there are a lot of quilt patterns that have cornerstones and sashings. A lot, right? And you can even have them where these are the same color as the sashing, so you wouldn't necessarily see it. But there are a ton of patterns out there. And when I was doing Pat Salone's traffic jam this past year, and you can see above the cross and below the cross, you've got black strips and color strips all the way through. Now, I don't know how big that center is, but I don't remember how big that square piece, you know, the cross piece center. I don't remember how big they are. If you are interested, this is a pattern on patsalone.com on her website that you can purchase. But I had people ask me, how do you keep it organized? They were getting a little frustrated, not with that pattern, but with something else they were making or happened to be making. And the idea came to them to see that, and they said, you know, I'm getting a little frustrated. So what's your method? So that's where this idea came from to do this video. Now, in the past, I would have sewn a strip with cornerstones and sashings. And I would have done enough strips to go in between and top and bottom. So on this 6x6, I would have done 7, okay? 7 long skinny strips of posts and sashing. And then I would have taken my blocks and I would have sewn a sashing on each side, add a block, add a sashing, add a block, add a sashing. And I would have had this as one unit without the cornerstone and sashing on top and bottom, okay? After all that was done, I would be simply doing a long seam here to get it attached. And another long seam here. And another long seam here. And it was a skinny strip, right? So when you're sewing, I can't tell you how frustrating it was for me, but when you're sewing, it can stretch and pull, or you can stretch and pull on that strip and make it go wonky. Your nesting of seams may not happen, because you really got to pay attention to what you're doing. And so you might be coming along and the seams aren't going to nest, you know. Or you realize they didn't nest, so you thought you'd go with it, and then you've got 4 out of I don't know how many posts, and none of the points are matching, right? So it's a very much of a frustrating thing, but I decided I needed to learn a new method. So that's what I'm going to show you today. Now, the very first step is that you're going to take your blocks. Now, I used a pre-cut 5-inch square on all of this. So you're going to take your blocks and you're going to put them where you want them to go and how you want them to go, okay? And then what I did, I know this is 5 inches, so I cut 5-inch strips of my sashing, and they're 2 inches wide. So I cut 5-inch strips, and I'd cut, 10 or so, or I think it was 8, and then I'd place them. I wouldn't sew them. I'd place them on top where they needed to go. And I would do that as I was cutting to make sure that I had enough sashings pre-cut. Then I would take, and since these were 2 inches, this is going to be a 2-inch square. So I would take my fabric and I'd start cutting 2 inches square. And, cut 20 at a time or whatever, put them all where they belong. And I'll throw a picture up. Nothing's sewn in that picture. Everything was about placement. So I knew exactly how many, and I cut enough squares, and I cut enough sashings. Then I pulled all those sashings down and put them in one pile, took all my cornerstones, put them in another pile, and began to work. And that's the next step. I'm going to show you, but I'm going to bring you in closer, and we'll get that next step done. Okay, so I've got all my fabric cut. I've got my 5-inch squares ready here. I've got my 5 by 2 inch strips, and I have 2-inch squares. So got all my fabric ready to go. The next part is that you're going to want to take each square and one strip. Now I read left to right, so I'm going to put it, just for easy organization, I'm going to put one strip on the left side, and I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to do it with, I'm going to chain piece these. So then I'll take the next one, send it through on the left side. Each one of these, I'm going to attach a strip to the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done off camera because this is 36 squares that I'm using right now. So after I get that done, I will pull you back up to my design board, and we will discuss a little further and get through these next few steps to get this sashing with these cornerstones finished. Okay, I thought it would be a good idea to pull you out every now and again to allow you to see how these different parts are actually working together. You know, that way it helps keep this organized, because that's what this whole video is about. And of course, not having one long skinny strip. So as you can see, I have actually sewn on the left side. Remember, I read left to right, so it was just an easy way for me to remember. So every block I've sewn on the left side, the sashing. Now I want to also tell you I've pressed to the dark side, okay? Just so happens that my sashing is in fact white, so it made it really easy, but I did press to the dark side. So, and I will continue to do so. If anything changes, I will let you know, but if my memory serves me correctly, it's always to the dark side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually pull you in closer, and we're going to talk about the next step. So the next step is that you're going to take all the rest of your sashings, and you're going to take your cornerstones or your posts, turn them right sides together, and sew each of them on one side. Now what I will say is, if you have directional fabric, you'll want to sew it to the left side, okay? You will notice when you do that, that when you get down to the end, you will have 2 posts or 2 cornerstones and 1 sashing. So go ahead and put 1 sashing will have 2 cornerstones. So you can go ahead and get that attached. So again, take all the rest of your sashings, sew the cornerstone to the left side if it's directional. Mine don't matter, so it's just one side. And then the last one, you want to have 2 cornerstones, and I have already gotten started, so I have been chain piecing. So it goes a lot faster like this, and then I will pull you out again to my design board, and I will show you your next step. Okay, before I pulled you out, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. So first, after you're done sewing all of these together, go ahead with the singles and go ahead and press them all. Well, I am going to press mine all to the dark side, okay? So I wanted to give you a heads up on that. The next step that you're going to want to do, I'm trying to see which way's left. I'm hoping this way is your left side. It'd be my right, but your left, I hope. So you're going to start to add your
sashing with the cornerstone, with the single cornerstone, you're going to go ahead and add it to the bottom with the cornerstone with the other sashing, okay? And when you do that, because we sewed both to the dark side, these will nest ever so beautifully. So that will be the next step, but I'm going to pull you out and meet you at my design wall because I got some tips and tricks related to this. So I'll see you at the design wall here in just a second.
Okay, a couple of things. So first of all, as you can see, I've done the first row, and each one of these has a strip with a cornerstone attached, okay? Now, if you'll also notice, I have, well, I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but I've got little cards up here, arrow pointing up, arrow pointing down, up, and down, okay? And what that is which way I'm gonna press. So on this row, I'm gonna press them all towards the dark side, towards the center, okay? On this row, I'm gonna press these all down. That's going to allow us to nest this seam right here nicely, okay? So that's what that is. It's just a helpful reminder so I don't have to think and I don't have to constantly look. The other thing that I do to help keep organized is I pull just the next row off, okay? So I've pulled the next 6, then I actually press 6 of the strips with the cornerstones going towards the dark side, okay? Once they cool, I then chain piece that row, grab the 1 from the next row, 6 more of these, add it to this one, send it through, and then snip this row and do the pressing as indicated, and then put them back on the design wall. That way I know I've counted these correctly, and when we get further along, I want to make sure that I'm constantly pressing these the direction that they need to go in order for me to get those nesting of seams, because it just makes life so much easier to get these beautiful points just the way you like them, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do each row off camera, okay, all the way down just on the bottoms, okay? When I'm done with that, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. So I'll see y'all in a second. Okay, here we are back at the design wall. And as you can see, I have added the Cornerstones Sashing unit to every single block in every row, okay? And the cornerstone was on my left side. Keeping that left theme, making it simple to remember, easy to do. Now you'll also notice that I moved these, and that I will explain here in just a minute. And I probably should have left some up and made some more so this make more sense. However, you'll also notice we're missing an entire row on top of Cornerstones and Sashing, an entire row on the right side, right? Those are all missing. So you're going to have some more Cornerstones and Sashing that you have cut. For the top row, all of these are going to be pressed towards the dark side or your cornerstone, okay? And I'm going to start left to right, and I'm going to simply add these all on, okay? And the seam will nest so wonderfully, okay? All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take more of our cornerstone and sashings, right, that we need for the right side. Now, because I had 6 rows and I was sewing this seam a certain direction, first row was up, second row was down, up, down, right? So this seam is going towards the sashing. And I'm going to add the cornerstone and the sashing here at the bottom, okay? So because I've sewn this towards the sashing, all of this row is like that. So all of these will need to be pressed towards the sashing, okay? Now, it really depends on how many rows you have. So if you couldn't remember, you go and look, right? And then you'd say, oh, okay, I need to press my seam going the opposite direction, whichever way that might be, okay? And then you're just going to simply add with the cornerstones facing down at the bottom here. You're going to go ahead and finish those all up. And there's something else I need to tell you. Just like we had row organization of which way to do those seams so that things will nest later, yes, we are also going to have to do it on these that we're adding in, okay? So that's why I've put this back up here, but on this side. Because what I'm going to do, when I add this sashing and cornerstone, it's going to go that way, okay? I just have to look. I need to go towards the block. When I add this one, it needs to go, I need to press it open towards the sashing. This row, I look, it needs to go towards the block, okay? And you just want to keep it alternating so when we add everything together, everything's going to finish well, okay? Now, you'll also notice that we have one hole left. And remember I told you, you're going to have one piece of sashing with 2 cornerstones. It won't matter if you have 3 rows, if you have 5 rows, or if you have 10 rows, okay? You're going to have one piece that has double. Now, because I will press this going that direction, this block will be pressed towards the dark side, okay? This block goes towards the dark side also because the seam goes towards the block, okay? And if you have to look before you press this, pull your block down, take a look, and press it the opposite directions of which way these 2 seams are going, okay? That way it will nest beautifully, all right? Now this brings me to the next step. After you get all of your sashing and borders on, we get to have a little fun, and we're going to add each block in the one row together, okay? So 2 will go to 1, this one will go to this one will be added to this one. Just make this one row, make it one unit, okay? And when you're doing that, you want to take a look at which way this seam that you just sewn needs to go. So for this whole row, as I'm adding a block on, when I open it up to press it, I'm going to press them all towards that center block, okay? When I go to row 2, I'm going to make this one unit, okay? All of these seams need to go that way. Row 3, they all need to go this way. But by putting these little signs up here for me, this allows me to not have to think and remember and look every time. It's just there. Now, if you don't have a design wall, you could simply put these in a pile in the correct order. Like this would be the first one on top and that would be the one on the bottom. And you could put this on top of that block. So you know every time you added a new block, you had to go, or you could even write towards the center, towards the sashing. I was going to say hashtag. You could put this on a pile, put towards sashing. So you don't need a design wall to do this. The important part is that you keep it organized, because after we get each of these rows as their own single unit, we're going to put all the rows together. Now, I told you I don't like long seams, right? We're going to have one long seam for each row. But, and I ain't going to lie to y'all, I don't like this part. This is my least favorite part. However, by doing all this preparation, we have done ourselves a lot of good stuff to make this a lot easier. If we were just to sew strips of cornerstone sashing, so one strip, one long strip here, then another long strip, I'd have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long strips, actually 7, right? However, then what we would have to do is we'd have to add this row, like we would sew this onto that strip, right? Then we'd have this whole unit, we'd have to sew to this strip. So then we have another long strip or long seam. Then we'd have to take this whole thing and sew it to this one and have one long seam. I mean, you're just doing a lot of work. And within those long seams, when you're messing with that strip like that, what you're doing is you have to make sure that this is going to all line up this way and this way. And it just makes it can be a booger. I didn't know how to do this at first, and I was doing it with strips, long strips. It's a nightmare for me because as you're sewing on that strip, that long strip, you can pull, you can stretch, your nesting of seams, like it might be going really, really good, and then you get to the middle one, and then you have to rip the whole thing. It just is, to me, it was a nightmare. By making these individual blocks and then sewing them as units, yes, we still have a long seam, but we're only contending with each time just one long seam to add the row. And we know that these are going to nest. Okay, so love this method. Once all your rows are together, so we're going to sew 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, etc., etc. Once they're all together, your quilt is done if you're not adding borders. Okay? And when you use pre-cuts like this, it goes real fast. You can get this done real fast. You just have to keep organized. And this video will be there so you can go back and watch it again and hit pause and go get something done if you have cornerstones. And those cornerstones are in a lot of patterns, like I said before. So I'm going to leave this up forever. You can always go back because it doesn't matter how many rows or how many blocks you have. The method is the same, okay? And it just makes it so much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my center. I am going to add borders to mine, but not for this video. So I'm going to go ahead and get my cornerstones and hashtags. I did it again. And sashings added on, and then get my rows together. I'll see you here shortly. Okay, so here we are. Everything's sewn together. And I only had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long seams. And everything nested, every seam nested. I know this method may seem like a lot of work. It really does go fast because you get into a rhythm, and it just makes it so much easier. At least that's my opinion, right? Because we each have one. And that's the beauty behind quilting, is there are so many different methods. If you've never tried this, next time you have and you get frustrated, that's the bottom line. If you're doing something that works, don't change it. But if you're frustrated with cornerstones and sashings, give this method a shot. Inside the description box, I'm actually going to post a PDF that you can get that will I'm going to do a 10 by 10 grid so that it would be like having 10 rows and 10 columns. And I'm going to put the arrows on each, the top and the side, just for a reference for you that you can utilize if you want that in the future. But yeah, I hope you give it a try. If you do give it a try, or if this is your method, let me know and drop a note in the comments. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Oh my gosh, don't hesitate to drop them also in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And as usual, today, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be on Facebook Live on our page to answer any questions or to give any thoughts they may feel like I need to add inside of there. So I hope to see you there. Which also brings me to next week. There will not be a normal video that comes out on Wednesday. I'm taking a mini trip, so little mini vacation. So there won't be a video next week, but we will resume on July 29th, also on Wednesday. We will start this shebang all over, and I'm super excited about that one because I'm working with Vicki Holloway of My Creative Corner 3, and we are doing a sew along together, and we're calling it a summer quilting tale, like T-A-L-E. Super excited about this. You can find more details on our Facebook page a little bit, and definitely inside my group, which is my Halo's Creative Kingdom. You can join that group. Just make sure you answer the 3 questions. The security of it is very, very important. I have people pending in there because they haven't answered the questions. That's just our way of keeping that private group private and safe. And that is number 1 is safe. So please answer the questions if you do try to join. But it will be the sew along, a summer's quilting tale will be fabric to finish. You know how I love doing that, because then you don't, if you follow along, you will not end up with a UFO. So look forward to seeing you. I hope you'll join us, but that will take us 4 weeks from July 29th from fabric to finish. So I'll see you guys again, hopefully today at 3 p.m. on the Facebook page, link below, but definitely on the 29th of July. So super excited about that. And also I wanted to remind you, took me a minute, that we do have a newsletter. Be Inspired is the name of it. It comes out only once a week. Inside you might see tips, tricks, inspirations, because that's what it's all about. You might get codes for discounts on our online shop. You might find out about sales. But most of all, it's about the inspiration. It might be tips, tricks, and it might be just inspiration. But if you do hit that link, it's also down below. Love to see you join that side of the Halo family. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That's an awesome compliment. I'd love it. And until next time, may y'all continue to be inspired, productive, and joyful, and never stop making your dreams in quilting come true. I love y'all. Happy quilting.